All right, guys. So, as I mentioned before at Lowe's, I got this end. It's a lot cheaper than the other versions, but I don't need it to light up. I just need it to work. So, this one is completely good. It's not burnt or anything. As you can see, this one's cut. Now, I cut it off at work because somebody connected whatever they were using, and it shorted out the plug end, and pretty much it kind of ruined it. And to be safer than sorry, I cut it off, and obviously it was connected to a power supply from the supplying power company. So what we're going to need here is, of course, your extension cord that you're going to be replacing the tip for, the plug itself. If you want to get some needle nose pliers, you can, or maybe your your wire stripper. If you don't have any of that, a blade is fine. Obviously you'd want one with the handle just so you don't cut yourself, but I have it here just for demonstrations. So what we're gonna do is pretty much split this whole thing all the way and get our wires bare. Now I'm gonna have one more thing that I add to all my extension cords whenever I replace the tip. I always get electrical tape, and what I do is at the ends right here, I go ahead and roll it up in the wire and then close it. That way it's not making direct contact with the sheathing, and it won't bend or crack, and it's just a little bit of a safety feature that I like to do. All right, let's get to it. All right, so once you're set up, you can go ahead and grab your blade and cut the sheathing like this. All right, it doesn't have to be exact. It just has to be enough to where you get an even cut. You don't want to cut into the actual wires themselves. Okay, so still needs a bit more. You could also use this tool right here. All right, just spin it around. Okay, so you got that. You pull it, and obviously depending how thick your sheathing is, that'll determine how much you're going to put. So pull that off. Okay, now here you're going to have your ground or your hot and your neutral. All right, and we're going to be connecting that to this. So go ahead, open this up. Now, some of these can be flat or Phillips. This one I like because it comes with both. You can go ahead and use your Phillips for this, to a little easier, or your screw gun. Obviously, if you're using a screw gun, you better check how much pressure you're adding to that. You don't want to, these are made of plastic, so just be careful. All right, guys, so here you can see this isn't a single conductor. It has multiple, very small, right? So it's a lot easier to kind of mess them up. So I would recommend for this, you get yourself a wire stripper. You could always use a blade, just be a little bit careful, or your needle nose too. You could also do that. This one fits into the 14 gauge, so it's a smaller conduit. You could even go ahead and do 12s. Let's do 12 right here. See, it's not that tight, so you got to pull a little bit harder. But you go ahead and do all that. You just don't want to damage any of these, right? All right, once you have that, the way this goes is brass is always hot, or gold, whatever color you think it is, and silver is always neutral, and of course green is always ground. So it should look something like this. You guys can tell right there. Maybe bring up the colors like that. So all right, now that we have all our strands connected, I like to twist them a bit. All right, so you're gonna get your housing. You're gonna put these in through here. Okay, this is because you don't want to install this and not have your housing set up, right? Now let that roll over, doesn't really matter. Now what you're gonna want to do is start with each one. Okay, all right, so the way this goes is you got ground, neutral, and hot. So your hot's always going to be your black with your brass, your ground's always going to be green with your green wire, and your neutral, which is your silver screw, with your white wire. Sorry about that. All right, so what you're going to want to do is put it on the left side. That way when we start screwing this in clockwise, it kind of adds tension to it. So as I said, these are strand wires and they're not single conductors, so you're going to want to twist them a bit just so they could fit in. Okay, some people like to do a loop. I don't. I just leave it like that. It doesn't really need it because honestly these single strand conductors are kind of weak, so you don't want to add any tension that'll loosen them up. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and get the ground, put that in, screw it in, all right, make sure it's tight, as it can come off, especially on this last one, since we're going to be adding a bit of pressure and we're going to be kind of twisting the wire to get it in. This is always the most difficult one because you want to make sure it's kind of tight. So let's go ahead, and if you hear someone in the background, that's just people like 2 blocks from here that like you know, talking about crazy stuff. All right, put that in. Sorry about that. Can't even see with the camera right here. All right, give me a second, guys. All right, now you're gonna tighten it, make sure it's secure. All right, now we're gonna get the housing and we're just gonna pretty much screw it back in. Right, make sure you got a good distance between all of them. If you guys can tell, these two are closer than this one. That means it would go like this. Now get your screw, make sure it fits, and make sure you feel it tighten. That's how you know you're actually doing it right. All right, these are tight. Now you're going to want to get your housing, but before we do that, we want to put tape right here. Now go ahead, get some strand right here, and all this does is just keeps it a bit tighter so that when you pull it or someone doesn't know, you know, that's not what you're supposed to do, you go ahead and take it off. So it doesn't have to be exact. What I'm going to do is take this off right here just for demonstration purposes and show you how it's supposed to be. Okay, so we saw that it's right here, so spin it all around. Try to make it as even as possible. If it's not, don't worry about it. Once it's tightened, it's not going to be off. And if you even want to go a little bit above right here, that's fine too, especially if you made a cut on the wire, you can always do that. So go ahead, get that right there. Get sure. Now finally get your housing, tighten it up. All right. Now this is how it's going to be. You can see that it's tight now, really tight. So the screws, get them in line. All right, tighten this up. Do the same thing with the other one. And again, make sure it's lined up. Okay. Okay. Okay, so here we have it. This thing is solid as a brick, dude. Really solid. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. As you guys can tell, it's tight. It won't come off. It feels good on hand, and only thing now is to test it out, see if it works. All right, guys, so here it is. Let's plug it in and see if this light works. It has a lamp. All right, so we got it plugged in. Let's try it. There we go. It works. Now, this isn't a complicated thing, but obviously if you've never done it before, you might not know. But yeah, it's a quick little video. I'll catch you guys later.